Flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
Welcome into the Feels Like 99 podcast, the home of your 5-3 Tennessee Titans, episode 4, the Ryan Suck-Up edition. I'm your host, Drake Kizer, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Caleb Waters.
5 interceptions in 2 games from the MTSU second-year player, Kevin Byard.
Dude, he has been absolutely amazing during this stretch of games. We have won 3 straight. The Titans are looking awesome, but we got to start out this week's episode with a little bit of sad news from our hometown of Hendersonville, Tennessee. The longtime coach of the football program that we both played for, the Hendersonville Commandos, Bruce Hatfield, has stepped down as the head coach, and I know we both have a lot of emotions about that one.
Yeah, it came as a shock to me. I figured, it'd be next year for sure, but, he did a lot of great things, I should say, because of the program that he ran. Like, this podcast exists. Like, I didn't know you, I didn't know anybody on the team, and then I decided to come out sophomore year and play, and he was like, oh sure, yeah. He knew that I wanted to play, and he welcomed me like I had known him for a long time.
Yeah, he was really a special guy, and such a big influence. I don't know anybody that's played for him, a 3 or 4 year player, and wasn't just highly respectful of him, had great things to say about him. He was just a great guy, a great mentor, like a great role model. He taught me so much, and he made me feel welcome on the team always. And even when I had some doubts about maybe continuing to play at a couple different points and whatever, he always just encouraged me to, keep with it and keep trying and just stick with it and just be that kind of guy that wasn't going to be a quitter or give up on something. And honestly, I've told people this a lot, but playing for 4 or 5 years of football and, playing for Coach Hat was the best decision I've ever made. I made my lifelong friends this way, and he really is. He is by far the best coach in Hendersonville football history by a landslide.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Hendersonville football was complete garbage forever until, Coach Hat came up. He played football at Tennessee Tech. His wife is in the Tennessee Tech Sports Hall of Fame, which I thought was pretty cool to know. Looking back, those days where it was so hot and he would just be yelling and yelling, you'd be like, wow, what is wrong with this guy? Looking back, you're like, wow, where would you be? And where would I be if I had just wow, I'm quitting. This is terrible. But he knew all that yelling it would pay off in the end. And football didn't matter that much to him. It did, but he and his staff had the long-term goal that not a lot of guys have.
Yeah, and see, one thing that really sticks out to me is our senior year when we both graduated in 2016, so our last year of football. It was awards day, and they were coming up on what awards they were going to give people, and a lot of those are voted on by the team as far as offensive MVP and stuff like that. But something that really stuck out to me and will always stick with me because it literally hangs on my wall is me and Carter Billingsley, another guy that we graduated with, actually shared the academic award. And that was actually something that Coach Hat really pushed for, was to recognize the both of us instead of just one of us, because our GPAs were very, very close. They easily could have just picked the higher of the two, which was Carter. I'll give him that, definitely. He had the better GPA than me, but Coach Hat really pushed to give that distinguished honor to both of us. And honestly, that was one of the greatest things of my high school career and of my life so far was, to be recognized for something like that, at the end of my football career, to feel like my coach had, recognized my classroom stuff. Because, I'll admit I wasn't the greatest player or anything like that, but just to know that he respected me in that way, it really meant a lot, and I'll always remember that.
Yeah, with what you're saying, Coach Hat let nerds play football. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Coach Hat, you could go out there with one leg and he'd be like, yeah, part of the team. What number you want to be? You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
he was just that kind of guy. He gave like guys that couldn't go eat. He gave them some money from time to time. I mean, it's just didn't think twice about it. Just here, take $10, $5. I don't know, whatever you need. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys that I forgot were on the team. Like, I'll see 10 years from now.
Right.
But, like, I'll see Coach Hatt in 10 years. I'm like, hey, Coach Hatt, like, and he would do the same thing for any of his players.
Yeah, and he really does. That's one thing about him is, like, anybody that comes to the program, no matter how important or unimportant you thought that you were to the team that you played on and the class you graduated with, he will know your name. He'll know at least a roundabout time of when you graduated, the teams that you were on and a part of. And he really does. He just has a tremendous amount of respect for anybody that played for him and that stuck with him. We always did have a lot of success, and that's completely a testament to him and the coaching staff that he put together. I mean, he literally built this program from the ground up. Is a program that had been to the playoffs 3 times and had 5 playoff victories before he took it over. He led us to so many winning seasons, state championship appearances, one that I was a part of, and he really is just a great guy in all aspects of the word.
Yeah, it's definitely terrible to see him step down, but I guess he's going to do what's best for himself. I'm not sure if he's going to retire or keep teaching. I'm not sure, but I'm sure he thought it was time. I've done all I can do. Left it better than I found it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And he was actually honored by the Titans in 2012. He was the Tennessee Titans Coach of the Week. They actually beat Riverdale that week. It was a really big upset victory. That Riverdale was like a state power, and for Hendersonville to go on the road and beat them was a massive upset. That was the only time that they led all game, was when they took the lead to win the game. So he won Coach of the Week for that. Let's see. He finished his years at Hendersonville with a 159-82 record. And he took us to 4 state title appearances, and he posted 8 10-plus win seasons. So that just goes to show you right there, this dude racked up the accolades, and to talk to him and to be around him, you'd never know it.
Yeah, along with that Titans Coach of the Week, he decided to take the coaching staff to go eat downtown before a Monday Night Football game, and he and the coaching staff met Coach John Gruden.
Yes, I remember that. I remember the photo it was in our weight room, the Iron Bunker. They had that big photo up there with them and Coach Gruden, and maybe it'll come full circle when he gets to be the coach at Tennessee.
Maybe he'll give Coach Hatt a call. Hey, how do you build a program?
Yeah, exactly. He needs some help building it from the ground up. He takes over UT right now.
Yeah, man, I really, really hope he does. I really do, man. Speaking of another coach that is, I've heard, a candidate of the Vols job, Coach John Harbaugh.
That'd actually be someone that I would not be opposed if I was a Tennessee fan to them hiring, because obviously Jim has had quite a bit of success in the college ranks. So perhaps John could do the same. But I guess that's a good transition into our first topic of the week here, and that's the game this week against the Baltimore Ravens. We were able to win the game, and it looks like our offense is trending in the right direction, but we're still having tons of trouble on third down.
Yeah, and you could always blame this on Terry Robisky, as most people would do, But I think a lot of it falls on Malarkey. Run plays that you can get the first down. There were so many plays in that game where we didn't even come close to throwing even to the sticks.
Yeah, and see, one that really stood out to me talking about throwing to the sticks was how did you feel about that Eric Decker, not his touchdown, but when he ran 1 yard short of the end zone, and he would have scored if he'd have ran it deep enough?
Sometimes I really wonder if these guys I have a lot of questions about Eric Decker, man. He's almost a non-factor.
And see, the worst part is, it just goes to show how the rest of our receiving core has been utilized, is he's actually second on the team in yards. That's the worst part. I mean, I guess he's technically third, but he's the second receiver leading us in yards. So, I don't know. I guess it speaks to the consistency of Delaney Walker that he's leading the team in catches and in yards. But Rashard Matthews is also having a pretty solid season. Eric Decker is our second leading receiver and our third overall leading pass catcher. And he really does. I mean, he's been a complete non-factor in a couple of different games. So what does that say about our receiving core overall to this point?
Well, we did get Corey Davis back, who played, I think, 39 of 52 total snaps, if I remember seeing that stat correctly. I think that was a big step. He had just an outstanding catch on the sidelines. And I think that's a sign of things to come for him because he's a young guy and he's a ball hawk, really, on offense, and we don't have that.
No, we really don't. And see, our receivers at the halfway point. Rashard Matthews has 31 catches for 463 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eric Decker has 26 catches for almost 250 yards, 1 touchdown, which came this past Sunday. And Taywan Taylor has 11 catches for 174 yards, 1 touchdown. And Corey Davis, interestingly enough, has 9 catches for 100 yards. So he's really only about 75 yards short of Taywan Taylor, and he's played, a fraction of the game. So I don't know what to think about that one. I really think that we should be getting Taylor more involved in this offense.
Oh, absolutely. It goes to show, I don't know if they have lack of confidence in him or, what it is, because they even threw a Dory Jackson in there on a run play, which, I liked it. But if you're going to do that, you need to get your best players the football, and that's how you win games. And if you do that, like good teams do, like the Patriots, the Rams this year, if you do that, you're going to be successful.
Well, see, the thing is, I feel like Adoree Jackson throws a little bit of a wrinkle into the offense because when he came in, the Ravens had no clue what was going on. Not only did they not know, I'm sure they looked in the backfield and they were reading their keys and whatever else, and they're like, hold on, who's 25? Like that, they're looking for Murray or Henry or whatever. And we kind of lined up, not even in the normal formation like we would with Henry and Murray. So I'm sure they were completely confused. And then Murray, fakes like he's going to take the handoff, and it was a pretty good fake. And a lot of the Ravens bid on it, and the Red Sea just parted for Adoree Jackson, man. He bust through that hole, and he was running. He reminds me a lot as a runner in the open field as, a Chris Johnson, man. He has lightning fast speed, and he's got some good ball carrier vision. He's got the moves, and if you get him in open space, he's lethal. But I feel like the same thing is true for Taywan Taylor. And I feel like he can really take the top off of defenses, and we're just not throwing that long ball to him, and I really don't know why.
I don't either, because Mariota has such great accuracy, honestly anywhere on the field. And I really don't know what it is, man, but like you were saying, that play call with Adoree Jackson was unbelievable. Great execution by the offensive line, great fake, great play with the ball. I thought he was going to bust it for a touchdown. But yeah, dude, honestly, the only plays that I can recall from my memory of Taywan Taylor actually getting the ball are misdirection pitches occasionally, and then that deep ball against Indianapolis.
And see, that's the thing. I feel like on Sunday against the Ravens, just as I was talking to my dad about, man, we should really be using Taylor more, and then we throw him what was supposed to be a little kind of like wide receiver screen pass, and he dropped it. Just straight up hit him in the hands. He dropped it. And I don't know if I saw him on the field maybe once or twice after that. Definitely not getting the ball thrown to him. But the thing is about that to me is if you're trying to build a young guy up and get his confidence up, one drop pass or one botched play or whatever else, I feel like everyone else on the offense gets to have 15 bad plays and they don't get taken out. Eric Decker can run 1 yard short of the end zone and he doesn't get taken out. He gets to catch the touchdown later. And, Philip Supernar earlier this season committed 3 straight penalties, and we still threw him the touchdown ball. But I feel like we're yanking Taylor out of the game and not even giving him a chance if he makes any mistake at all. And I just feel like that's not fair.
I totally agree. And like you're saying, you can see it with Rashard Matthews. He dropped an easy first down Sunday. Oh, and wouldn't you know, he caught a touchdown. Don't get it, man.
Me neither. And I understand veteran guys, they have a little bit longer leash. They're more established. They have the reputation and the rapport with the coaches, whatever. I understand that. But you just don't want to bash a young guy into the ground because you need to build his confidence up. Because if he goes out there and he's not confident in what he's doing, he's going to drop passes. He's going to run bad routes and everything like that. So I don't know. That's just one of my personal gripes. I'm kind of a homer for this guy. I loved watching him here at Western last year, and But he's a great slot receiver. And actually, here's a great stat for you. He has a 100% catch rate when he lines up in the slot. 100%.
Wow, I did not know that, and I guarantee you not. I bet you nobody on the Titans coaching staff knows that.
And I bet you they don't, because they pulled up a graphic the other day on Pro Football Focus about how Jeremy Curley had been suspended 4 games, but they were showing the stat basically. Jeremy Curley had the second best catch rate from the slot this season. And then number 1 at 100% was Taywan Taylor of the Tennessee Titans. So I'm telling you, man, this dude has got great potential, and he's a great slot receiver. He fits in that role perfectly, but I don't know. I just feel like right now he's not playing with a lot of confidence, because how could you when you're not getting on the field?
Exactly, man. And that's more than half the battle with those guys. I mean, if you run plays to players' strengths, they're going to be unstoppable, especially when they have the confidence.
Exactly. And speaking of confidence, punter Brett Kern actually leads the NFL in average and net. He's having a 51.5 average punt, and his 46.6 net is both best in the league right now. Wesley Woodyard had 20 tackles, the highest single game total for the Tennessee Titans, the most since Keith Bullock had, I think, maybe 18 in a game, probably a decade ago now. We have a couple standout performers, especially, as you mentioned earlier, Kevin Byard with the 5 picks in 2 games. And so we have a lot to be encouraged about, but who are you feeling the best about right now?
Man, that is a tough question. I would have, it's probably, I feel really good about the Titans secondary. I know the past couple of weeks I've been bashing them, but them and the linebackers may be the strength of this team until the offense hits their stride, which it's pretty obvious they haven't. And Kevin Byard, they got Cyprin back, and that's a huge, huge deal, because you can tell they're playing with confidence now. You saw the dance they did after you got that pick. You don't do that unless you have confidence.
Exactly. And these guys, I feel like they really are a cohesive unit, because you just see one play that really stood out to me in particular was very close to the end of the game, the Ravens' final drive, when they got that touchdown right before they kicked the onside kick or whatever. It was Adoree Jackson and Kevin Byard, not really in double team, but very close to the pylon on that side. They throw the ball up there, and they both go for the ball. And it looked like Byard was going to be able to intercept it for his 3rd interception of the game, but Adoree Jackson had no clue that he was even there. So he bats the ball up in the air, and essentially he took away the interception from his teammate and actually ended up scoring or whatever else. But you could just tell as soon as it happened, he picked up Byard because they both fell on the ground, and you could tell he was saying, like, man, I'm sorry, we had that pick right there. And Byard was just like, no big deal, man. Like, they were just laughing it off. They're buddies, whatever. That's the kind of thing that you want to see, because a lot of corners in the league, or a lot of safeties in the league, if your corner comes over and knocks the ball out and now you didn't get the interception, they'd be mad. They'd be cussing him and whatever else. But these guys are buddies that they say, all right, we'll go make it the next play. So that's something that I really like to see, especially with a couple young guys that could be the leaders of this defense going forward.
For sure, man.
All right, just a few more stats that I wanted to run by you here. Our offensive rank right now, we're actually 20th overall. We're 10th run, but 27th in passing. And for defense, we're 17th overall, 10th against the run, and 19th against the pass. So we're kind of middle of the road on defense. Basically top 16 would be like top half. So we're just out of that top half on defense. Pretty decent against the run. Not too bad against the pass. It seems like we're getting a little bit better. I'm sure that was hurt by our performance against the Texans. But our offense, 10th running the ball this year, not too bad. But a lot of teams don't really run anyway, so that's probably not too much to look into. But 27th passing. I don't know about that.
Yeah, man. It's got to say something to the offense. It has to.
Well, the thing is, like, Mariota, he's had some good games and he's been consistent. I mean, he hasn't been throwing too many interceptions this year or anything like that. He really hasn't turned the ball over a lot, but the thing is, man, like we're obviously not churning on all cylinders on offense because third down has been absolutely killer to us, just absolutely terrible. We cannot get a first down on third down. We can get it on first or second or sometimes even fourth down. We've had decent success on fourth down this year, but man, third down has been lethal to us. Marcus just looks uncomfortable in a lot of different situations, and I really don't understand why he's kind of taken that step back. But I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons that we could look into and kind of say this and that is the reason why. But what do you think is probably the main issue?
Play calling and execution. Really, I'm just kind of put that pin on play calling just because that's the easiest thing to look at. I mean, you can tell, like, just the first play on third down that pops into my head when I think the Titans offense was that tight end screen to Delaney Walker. That play sums up our third down offense. Once we get to third down, I know we're not getting it. And I'm just like, well, I hope we can stop them. You know, I hope we can stop Elite Flacco and company.
Yeah, exactly. So the Titans running back at the halfway point. DeMarco Murray has 95 rushes for just about 400 yards. He's averaging about 4.1 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns, while Derrick Henry has 83 rushes for closer to 350 yards, a 4.3 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. So they're pretty much dead even at this point. But it feels like to me that the carries have not been that even. Watching the game on Sunday, I was just begging for more Derrick Henry carries. And I feel like, kind of like we were talking about earlier as far as chances and keeps getting put out there is DeMarco Murray, man. It's obvious he's hurt, he's banged up. And we just keep forcing him out there for I don't know what reason because, you know, his averages and stuff are kind of skewed because he had that huge run in the Seattle game and whatever else. But, you know, I feel like his effectiveness is going down every single week. And I feel like Derrick Henry should be taking a much bigger role in this offense by now.
I think it's time for Derrick Henry to take over. I think they should sit DeMarco until the doctors tell him you're good to go. I think he's a veteran, and I think the coaching staff is like, you good to go? And of course he's going to say, yes, I'm good to go, but I don't think it should be up to him anymore. I mean, yeah, it's just, you know, it's tough to watch, you know, because how good he can be and how far it feels like he hasn't fallen off that far. But the longer he waits to get healthy, the further off he'll fall.
I definitely agree with you too. And speaking about some health concerns, that's a good transition into our second topic this week, which is some massive shakeup since the last time we talked last Thursday when I was editing the episode for Friday. It seemed like the world came crashing down for the AFC South because Deshaun Watson, it was revealed that he had a torn ACL, and Andrew Luck was placed on injury reserve. And so basically 2 of the 4 starting quarterbacks in the AFC South are out for the season. And it looks like that this division, maybe not wide open, but it is a 2-way race between the Jaguars and the Titans at this point.
Yeah, man. Seeing that Deshaun Watson non-contact ACL tear, it really sucks for him, man. And it's awful if you're a fan of good football because he was a true game breaker for that Texans offense.
Oh, yeah. This dude was in line to not only be Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I'm sure if they would have continued on that pace, this dude could have been in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year, maybe even MVP if they really made some moves. I mean, he was absolutely playing lights out. He makes them a much more dynamic team. I just couldn't help but thinking all last Sunday when they were playing the Colts, if it hadn't have been Savage in there, I mean, they would have been running the Colts off the field. And they end up losing that game because, you know, it's not Watson back there, man. It's definitely not Watson.
It's literally, it's going to sound kind of crazy because we haven't seen that much of Deshaun Watson. But that offense without Deshaun Watson might be worse than the Titans offense without Marcus Mariota.
Oh, yeah. And I put it right up there with how the Packers have been playing without Aaron Rodgers. Like, when you don't have a guy like that, I feel like a lot of teams underestimate how important that the quarterback really is to just driving the entire offense, because when he's not in there, a lot of teams, especially the Titans, the Texans, and the Packers, as we've seen, man, they fall off when their general's not in there for them.
Yeah, you know, and Jameis Winston is not very good, and you've seen how bad they've been when he's bad. And that pregame speech that he had, what in the world?
I want everybody to look at me. I'm going to pass it to Corn after I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W. How many people want to eat a W tonight?
See, my reaction to that video was Deshaun Jackson in the background, just looking, pretty much blankly staring like, what in the world is this dude talking about? I was listening to Pardon My Take, and they were just talking about, that Jameis Winston probably rehearsed that with his boys at home, and they thought it was so funny and so good and whatever. And he played that on the field with them, and they were just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that was definitely the worst thing I have ever seen on an NFL field in my entire life, and it probably will continue to be the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't know what he was saying. I don't know what he was doing. He was probably thinking about crab legs and stealing from Publix, man.
I'm telling you, that was one of the funniest pictures I saw last Sunday, which was right before the huge Mike Evans hit, which I still don't understand how he wasn't ejected from the game for, whatever, was basically Winston kind of started that whole scrum or whatever, and somebody did a screenshot of it, and it was him tapping on Lattimore's shoulder and was saying, "Excuse me, sir, do you know where the crab legs are?"
Dude, yeah, that was – I don't know what Mike Evans thought he saw, but, man.
To me, though, that's one thing about Mike Evans. A lot of people say that, and I feel like it is true. I feel like he's kind of like that Taylor Lewan type of guy. Like, you want him on your team because he's a tenacious guy. He's nasty, aggressive, and I feel like that's someone that you'd want to go to war with because he's going to defend you till his dying day.
It's definitely a guy you want to have on your team. It's definitely a guy that you would run through a wall for because you know he'd do the same for you. Just like Taylor Lewan. I'm not sure exactly what he got mad for. I think it was another late hit on Mariota, and they just let it go.
Yeah, I know Paul Kaharski, he was really going crazy about how CBS wasn't showing any replays of these hits on Mariota, and he was like, why in the world are they not showing these? It really was. It was kind of peculiar, like, just after the play, you kind of show the replay of it, especially if it was a hit or whatever else, and they weren't showing them, and they definitely were not calling any. Not really the most physical game that we've played this season on either side. So, I didn't really think there were a lot of missed calls. It's just, I don't know. I feel like you got to protect the quarterbacks, and I feel like Marcus, along with a few other guys, they just really don't get that same protection as some of the elite do. So.
It's like we said last week or the week before, those guys don't get that call. And they were showing the replay because I think the CBS producers and I guess the camera guys, I don't know if they have any effect on what's being shown, but I guess they didn't want the referees to look like they made the wrong call because you never want the ref to make the wrong call, but they do.
Yeah, they definitely do. And speaking of a wrong call, on Sunday Night Football, I think the Raiders offensive lineman made the wrong call.
Under pressure, loses the ball, and it's picked up by Oakland, by Newhouse, and then Newhouse loses the ball.
I cannot remember the last time that I saw an offensive lineman actually try to pick up the ball like that. But this man, he was actually on Pardon My Take. His name is Marshall Newhouse. He's the Raiders offensive lineman. And he really is. He's a great guy. He's a funny dude, whatever, But he was telling the guys on Pardon My Take, he was like, it was actually my fault that Derek Carr got strip sacked on that play. So when the ball comes out and it's on the ground over there, he's like, I guess I'll try and maybe not even just pick it up, but I'm going to try to get back some of these yards. I just caused my quarterback to lose the ball and us to lose yards. And I'm going to pick this ball up and I'm going to go. He said no sooner than he picked it up, just a swarm of teal jerseys came up. And he said that was the last thing he remembered. And he said he literally blacked out on that hit. He was gone.
Yeah, if our listeners have not seen this video, you are missing out. I laughed for probably 20 minutes. This offensive lineman for the Raiders was like, oh, wow, I'm going to pick up this ball and I'm going to run 50 yards and score a touchdown. And he picks it up and takes 2 steps and gets hit. And he looks like a helicopter for like 2 seconds, and he's just out. out, and the ball's fumbled again. And it was by far the funniest thing I've seen in the NFL this season.
See, the funny part about it, too, was right before he got hit, this man was switching his ball carrier hand so he could protect the ball.
Dude, I really want to know what he was thinking. Like, I know you said what it was, but did he really think he was going to pick up more than 5 yards?
I mean, honestly, though, if I was an offensive lineman, I had just given up that sack. If the ball was coming my way, I'd have just fell right down on that thing, man. I would not have even been close to scooping it up.
Maybe he's got some deceiving speed that we don't know about. I don't know, man. But I actually texted my brother about it. I was like, dude, if you ever picked up a fumble, this is what would happen to you. And I would laugh. And he got so mad. I was like, but hey, you know, it's true. There's a reason offensive linemen aren't running backs.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. You got to have some great ball security to take a hit in the NFL. I know that's for sure. I mean, you see quarterbacks and receivers and running backs that is their job, is to carry the ball, and they still lose it. So could you imagine an offensive lineman that has no business handling that thing getting actually knocked out like that? There's no way he's holding on.
Dude, he got rocked. That was the biggest hit I've seen in the NFL.
It kind of defies the laws of physics, because like you see him get hit and he like spins out into like nothing. I don't understand.
He probably doesn't know where he is.
I think one thing that we definitely need to talk about, the Jacksonville Jaguars actually got into another big notable fight. It was Jalen Ramsey and AJ Green. That actually serves as a perfect segue if we want to talk a little bit about it first. But actually next week we play the Cincinnati Bengals, as we talked about last week in our playoff preview. But the Jags and the Bengals absolutely got after each other, but it looks like the Bengals came out really on the wrong side of that one. And the Jaguars played pretty great against them. I'll give it to them. And it seems like Jalen Ramsey did definitely get the best of AJ Green. So what were your thoughts on that little skirmish?
Well, you don't have to talk to me for very long to know my opinion on Jalen Ramsey. I am so glad the Titans did not pick him. That was the greatest pass they've ever taken. And yes, he can play. He really can. But he cannot shut his mouth and just play. And I guess you don't have to do that in the NFL, but I loved when AJ Green put him in a chokehold or a headlock, whatever you want to call it. But, I thought, finally somebody's going after him. But speaking of the Raiders lineman that got annihilated, you know who else is going to get annihilated this week? The Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, man. I think this is going to be a big one for us. I think this is going to be a little bit of a statement game for the Titans, because the thing is, we're sitting at 5-3 right now, and we've won 3 straight games, and that's impressive. But if we're 3 games over 500, have won 4 straight, we'll be at 6-3 at that point if we beat them this Sunday. I just think that's going to set us up huge, and I also think that's going to lead us into some great momentum, because it's the very next Thursday as we have to go up to Pittsburgh and play the Steelers on Thursday night. So we're going to need to be riding high. I don't want to be going into that game on a one-game losing streak.
Definitely not, man. It's a very winnable game. Andy Dalton is not good. Marvin Lewis is not good. I'm afraid we're going to lose up a couple of guys in that game just because of, the way their defense plays.
Yeah, they do. They have a pretty tenacious defense, and they have some players, but it just feels like overall the Bengals always find a way to underachieve, to kind of just not be exactly what they should be. As far as you see on paper, Andy Dalton, I mean, he's not an elite quarterback, but he probably is, at his best anyway, probably in that top half of starting quarterbacks. He plays pretty much every game. He's had some bad ones this season, but with a guy like AJ Green on your side, and, they've had some pretty good running backs. I think it's still ridiculous that Joe Mixon is on their team, considering all the things that he's done, but that's another story for another day. But, I don't know. I just feel like they have some talent, and, I feel like they just severely underachieve, as they always do.
Yeah, it's like you said, they always underachieve, and there's no it's just what's going to happen with them. They always do it. and they probably, until they get rid of him, they will be subpar.
Yeah, and I do. I think they hang on to him kind of for the same reason that we hung on to Fisher for so long. I feel like he's just kind of that steadying force. He's pretty consistent, but he's consistently average. And if you want to kind of break out of that mold, you're just going to have to bring in someone else. I think Marvin Lewis is a pretty good guy as a person, but it's obvious that he just doesn't really cut it in the NFL, and he never really has. He's never really led them to anything, so I don't know. But talking about some injury report news here, Quentin Spain, Malarkey said today that he's questionable to play on Sunday, so hopefully he's moving back because Schwenke didn't play bad, but he did give up a pretty bad sack on Sunday. And he also said that Delanie Walker and DeMarco Murray are going to be limited in practice. I don't think Delanie Walker has anything to worry about. I think he's just still limited because he is still going through some pain with his injury, but I don't think where he didn't miss last week, I don't think he'll miss this week. Murray, I don't know. I thought he got healthy over the bye week, but it seems that he has not, and maybe he's re-aggravated. I think they said it was a knee injury, so we might be seeing a little bit more Derrick Henry. And, I don't want to wish injury on DeMarco Murray, but I'm all for seeing some more Derrick Henry.
I think most Titans fans would agree with you. I definitely would. Like we said earlier, it's probably time for DeMarco to take a step back and get healthy before he injures himself further. But, like you're saying, I think most Titans fans would like to see that.
Yeah, and I do. I just don't want to see DeMarco Murray kind of take years off his career or whatever else, man. Just take a few games back, just take a step back and just allow yourself to get healthy again, because I feel like the grind of this long season really takes its toll on a running back as he ages. And he's moving up there in age. I mean, he's not old or washed up or anything yet. I mean, obviously you still see flashes of that old DeMarco Murray. It's just, I think the main issue is that he's hurt right now and that he's not being forced to play, but I feel like he's forcing himself to play. So, but the Titans really don't have any other huge notable injuries. I mean, if Quentin Spain can't play, our offensive line takes a little bit of a hit, but I think Murray and Walker will both end up playing. Limited participation in practice really shouldn't matter too much. And I feel like Mariota is back to complete health. He looked great on Sunday, maybe not every aspect of his game, but he did. He took off a few times and looked comfortable. So if we can fix up our third down woes, I think we'll be in a great spot.
We definitely will be in a great spot because that's really the only thing that is a huge, huge flaw. But, there's always room for improvement on just about everything with this team.
Yeah, and I do. I feel like we're trending upward. I am a little bit disappointed that after the all those brawls and stuff all over the NFL and the crazy last week, that A.J. Green and Jalen Ramsey both are actually not going to be suspended. I thought there was no way that we'd be even playing against A.J. Green on Sunday, but I guess he will be out there. So how do you – I don't know that he'll necessarily line up a ton on Logan Ryan, but I feel like that would be a good matchup. I feel like they're going to try to pick on Adoree Jackson, though.
As most teams probably will try, first couple of drives, but I think he'll hold his own. I know A.J. Green's one of the best receivers in the league, but I think Adoree Jackson will hold his own for sure.
Yeah, I feel like he's got some great confidence, and I feel like even week one when he was kind of thrown out there to the Wolves playing against Amari Cooper a lot of those snaps, I mean, he really kind of held him in check. I mean, to me, Adoree Jackson really hasn't had a terrible game this year, to be honest, and really I can't even think of a bad one that he's had. I mean, he's had a few where he's kind of been a non-factor, and, I feel like they hyped him up a little bit before that Colts game that maybe, he'd do something big on Monday night or whatever. He didn't really do anything bad. He didn't really do anything great either. I feel like Kevin Byard is kind of overshadowing him a little bit with, the 5 picks in 2 games. So impressive. It's crazy that he's been able to do that. So you think he's going to continue his success against the Bengals? As
long as Andy Dalton is playing quarterback, I would say absolutely.
I think so too. I don't know how long that he can keep up this pace of getting interceptions and whatever else. But if you're in the right place at the right time, I mean, anything could happen.
Oh, definitely, man. So if you were to pick a score right now, what would you pick?
Well, considering how badly that we beat the Jaguars earlier this year, and considering how badly that the Bengals were beaten by the Jaguars this past Sunday, I don't really know that I can pick us to score too many points because we've just not been clicking on all cylinders offensively. But I feel like our defense is playing at such a level right now that they are clicking on all cylinders. We're still not getting the sacks, but if those start coming, this Titans defense is going to be absolutely lethal because we're already creating tons of turnovers and, we're making quarterbacks on the opposing side very uncomfortable. But at this point, my score prediction would be something in the realm of maybe like 24-3, something like that. I just feel like we really don't give up a lot of points to them. I feel like they're kind of spiraling out of control with some of their recent issues. A lot of that. Have you heard about this A.J. McCarron backlash after the trade that they botched?
I have not. I don't think our listeners have either.
Well, A.J. McCarron is actually in the middle of it's not like a legal matter or anything like that, but he's basically filing a little bit of a dispute with the Bengals for basically to allow him to be a unrestricted free agent after this season because he claims that his rookie season, he said that he was fully healthy and able to play, but they didn't activate him to be able to play in enough time, so he lost a year of eligibility for free agency, so they basically hold his rights for longer. They kind of messed him up there. And then obviously they tried to trade him and put him in a better opportunity to go play somewhere else where he could actually start and not have to sit behind Andy Dalton. And they screwed that up for whatever reason. And so basically he is supremely unhappy. So could you imagine a scenario where we knock Andy Dalton out of the game and they have to trot McCarron out there and he hates playing for the Bengals right now?
Can you blame him? I mean, they couldn't score a touchdown for the first 3 games of the year, it felt like.
I know they have had some very bad offensive struggles, and Andy Dalton he's struggling pretty mightily this season. So I'm sure A.J. McCarron's like, dude, give me the reins, like let me try it.
Oh, for sure, man. I think he'd be successful in that offense, but hey, I am not Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, if he gets his wish, and the NFL will likely agree with him, considering that if they can prove that he was fully healthy and they were just kind of holding him back from being eligible to play that season, then he probably will be an unrestricted free agent this season. And I mean, he'd be smart, I guess, to go sign with the Browns if that's who that really wanted him and pursued him.
Yeah, man. If I was picking this game, I'm probably going to take the Titans 24-10. I don't think it'll be an eventful game. And I know my past predictions have been way off, so I'm going to go with the more realistic one of 24-10. I'm going to say the Bengals come out early and put up 10, and then we'll put up 24 unanswered to end it. Byard has another interception.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that I could see us getting off to a slow start this week. The Titans are at home again this week, so maybe they'll have a little bit of home field advantage. But we've had success recently at home, but for the past few years before that, man, we were just absolutely atrocious at home. Every game that I went to, it seems like we lost. So hopefully the Titans will have more home field advantage than they've had in the past 5 or 6 seasons. And hopefully it'll help them get out to not too slow of a start where they can't dig themselves out of that hole. One more thing that I definitely want to mention is the return of Pac-Man to the Music City. So I don't know. I feel like he's had a pretty successful career. He really has. He's cleaned himself up. It seems like he's gotten himself on the right track with his life, at least for the most part, as much as any NFL player, I guess. What are your thoughts and feelings about old Pac-Man?
Well, if I'm the Bengals, I'm keeping him away from all national strip clubs, and if I'm the Titans, I'm steering him toward all national strip clubs. He had a lot of problems while he was here, and I still think his problems outweigh his I don't even know.
Like, his play has not necessarily outweighed all of his outrageous actions off the field, especially because he was drafted so high.
So this week, we want to introduce a brand new segment the Atrocious Statements segment brought to you by Ronald's Napkins. They clean your face.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited about this new edition of the podcast. I really think our listeners are going to enjoy this one.
So the basic concept of this segment is to come up with the dumbest thing that we can say about this week's game, whether it be a stat, a prediction, or even the final outcome of the game. So, Drake, what would your episode 4 atrocious statement be?
So for the inaugural atrocious statements, I'm going to say that Adoree Jackson and AJ Green get into an even worse fight than Jalen Ramsey and AJ Green. And this one, helmets come off, and I think Adoree Jackson puts AJ Green in the armbar and makes him tap out right on the middle of the field, the 50-yard line, right where they put the sword. He's going to tap him out right there.
That was a good one. I'm going to say Pac-Man Jones brings a stripper to midfield, and just like back in the good old golden days of Titans football, he gets arrested on the field after getting helicopter hit like that Oakland offensive lineman did. I'm going to put a second one in there. I didn't think that one was good enough. I'm going to say Marcus gets into a huge fight, and the NFL kicks him out forever. They're gonna Pete Rose him.
They're gonna be a bench clearing brawl between Mike Mularkey and Marvin Lewis.
Battle. They're gonna have Terry Rubisky and whoever the Bengals coordinator is. Who's the worst offensive coordinator? They're gonna have a cage match on the 50.
Oh my gosh! That's definitely awesome.
All right, man. Is that all you got for this week?
Yep, I think we've covered all of our bases for this week. We did. We talked about the Ravens game, and we covered a little bit about what we think is going to happen in that Bengals game, and all the crazy happenings in Week 9 of the NFL. And let's just hope that Week 10 is as kind to the Titans as this past one.
All right, man. I guess I will see you 1 week from today to record episode 5, the Kerry Collins episode.
Yep, it should be a big one. Let's hope that we're talking about a big W over the Bengals, and I'll catch you next Wednesday, man.
You've been listening to the Feels Like 99 podcast with Drake Kizer and Caleb Waters. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Feels Like 99 Pod. You can find it on YouTube at Feels Like 99 Podcast. You can find my co-host Drake Kizer on Twitter at Drake Kizer _. You can find myself on Twitter at Caleb Waters _14. So I'm signing off for myself and my co-host Drake Kizer. This is Caleb.
Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God.
And I'd like to remind our listeners that I wouldn't want to cuff you